In order to get to the point to where we can really make big business decisions about what are you going to do to save money on taxes? What are you going to do to put together financial statements that are going to impress investors and creditors? What are you going to do to make financial decisions that's ultimately going to put more money in your product? In order to do all of that, you have to make money. And the way you're going to make money is by attracting high quality, high value clients and customers. Hi, I'm Jeremy Wells, host of the J Wells CFO Show. Welcome. And again, this week I am running solo, so you've got just me again, but that's great because I want to follow up on something we talked about last time, which was your value proposition. Now, if you didn't watch last week's episode or you don't remember it, I really recommend that you go back and watch that first. But to sum up, last week we talked about value proposition, and essentially for your business, you have two options. It all boils down, no matter how you define that value proposition, it all boils down to one of two choices, and it's one or the other. It can't be both. But your first choice is to do it cheaper than everybody else. Your other choice is to do it better than everyone else. And those are essentially your two choices when it comes to value proposition, and you really must choose one or the other. If you try to do both at the same time, it's a recipe for failure. McDonald's is an excellent example of a company that tries to do it cheaper than everybody else. The extra value meal, the dollar menu, the speed, the pace at which they get that food out, and the prices that they charge for it. It's all about quantity. It's all about scale. It's all about doing it cheaper than everybody else. You go to a nice sit-down restaurant, it's going to cost more, but it's going to be a much better experience. And so that restaurant wants to do it better than everyone else. You wouldn't expect the same kind of experience at these two different places, at McDonald's versus a nice sit-down restaurant. You wouldn't expect the same kind of experience. You also wouldn't expect the same kind of price. You really wouldn't expect the same kind of product. So today I wanted to elaborate a little bit more and take it a step further from what I talked about last time. So let's assume for a moment that you figured out what your value proposition is. And I challenged you last week to really figure out what that is. I'm going to go ahead and assume that for most of you, because you're watching this, because you're intentional about your business, because you're thinking hard about your business, because you want to run a good business, I'm assuming that your value proposition is not to do it cheaper than the competition. Because what that means is that you need to be figuring out ways to scale your operation. You need to be figuring out ways to put as much quantity in front of the market as possible. And really, that comes at the expense of quality. But I'm going to assume that for the most part, entrepreneurs get into business because they want to put out a better product than what they've seen so far. So whether that's a hamburger, whether it's a smartphone application, whether it's being a professional in your field, whether it's accounting or law or marketing or whatever your field is, I'm going to go ahead and assume that your value proposition is to do it better than the competition, better than what you've seen out there before, which means you're going to be focusing on providing a better quality product. Now, when you go to McDonald's, you expect for what you're getting a certain range of quality and a certain range of price to match. So what happens when you go to a nice sit-down restaurant? You expect better quality, better experience. But what if you took a friend to that same restaurant, that nice sit-down restaurant, and when the bill comes to the table at the end of this really nice meal that you've had, your friend gets upset because it costs more than McDonald's. And your friend gets mad at you and says, well, if I knew we were going to spend this much, I would have rather gone to McDonald's instead. That whole meal, you sat there knowing this is a different experience. It's a different level of quality. It's a different level of product. So it's going to be more expensive. It's going to be a different price than what you would get at the cheaper alternative. And you would think your friend needs help. You would think you would be worried about your friend for expecting the same kind of price range given the difference in quality and experience. But for a lot of small business owners, especially new ones, and especially those in these professional fields, we tend to think that we need to compete both on quality and on price. We know we need to provide a better product. That's what gets people in the door, is telling people that we're good at what we do, that we will respond to their emails and phone calls faster, that we will get the work done faster and better, right? That we will provide a better experience. We will be more friendly and courteous to the client or the customer. We will provide a better overall experience and a better product. But then we get nervous because we need to price this. We need to charge our customers and our clients. We need to make money because we have to provide for ourselves. This is part of the reason that we got into business for ourselves, because we need to make money. And yeah, we could go work for a business and get a paycheck, but we either tried that and realized that we could do it better, or if you're like me, you're just not that jazzed about being an employee. I don't like working for somebody else. It took me about 15 years to realize that. But when I did, the day I woke up and said, the problem isn't the job, the problem isn't the location, the problem isn't even me. The problem is that I don't like being an employee. I would prefer to be running the show myself. Now, we can have a whole other conversation about whether you actually feel that way and the pros and cons of feeling that way. But for right now, let's just say that you started your business because you wanted to do it better than the competition, and because you need to provide for yourself. And maybe you've got a family, maybe you've got people living with you, maybe you've got dependents. Whatever the case might be, you need to provide for at least yourself and maybe some other people. So you have to charge money for the work you're doing. So how much do you charge? And this goes right along with that value proposition question. Because if you want to do it cheaper than the competition, if you want to do it at scale, if you want to have greater profit margins at the same low cost that the competition does, right? Then you just need to price competitively. You need to price such that customers are looking at these two products side by side, your competitors and yours, and they make that decision based on price. Your option costs a nickel less than the competitor's option because it cost you a dime less to make it, because you're producing it cheaper than the competition. So you can compete with the competition on price. But when your value proposition is not doing it cheaper, but doing it better, then to try to compete on price doesn't make sense. Because think about what's happening. You're going to be doing it better. You're going to be doing it more efficiently. You're going to be doing it quicker. You're going to be doing it more courteously. But for all of that, where's the reward? Where's the return to you? Where's the benefit? And so when you compete on value, on experience, on quality, on doing it better than the competition, you have to resist that urge to also compete on price with the competition. Now, I'm not saying that means you have to price gouge. I'm not saying that means that you have to be throwing numbers out there that are so ridiculous that no one is going to do business with you. But you do have to be aware that your offering in the marketplace is not a better deal in terms of just what the customer is going to pay or what the client is going to pay compared to the competition, because you already decided that you're not going to compete on price. You're not going to compete by doing it cheaper. You're going to compete by doing it better, which means you're probably going to have to charge more. So when you determine that value proposition and you say you're going to do it better, the first big hurdle you have to get over, and this is an internal hurdle, this is in your mind. That's the only place it is. But in your mind, you have to say, you have to resolve, you have to decide that it is okay. In fact, it's not only okay, it's necessary that you charge prices appropriate to the better experience, better quality, better value that you're going to be giving your clients and customers. Think back to going to that nice restaurant, ordering and eating what ends up being the best hamburger you've ever had. And then imagine expecting the price to be the same as what you pay for a hamburger at McDonald's. It just wouldn't make sense. In fact, these kinds of nicer high-end restaurants are in business and do pretty well because of the fact that so many people are out there wanting a nicer, better experience, better quality, better value, and they're willing to pay for it. So if you're trying to compete with the competition by doing it better and trying to charge less, then you're setting yourself up for failure because you're not going to be able to cover your own expenses, especially your own time, your own energy and commitment to providing that better quality if you're trying to compete with the competition on price as well. No one goes to a nice fancy restaurant and expects to pay fast food prices. No one should come to you expecting better, higher quality, but then also paying the competition's prices. So you shouldn't be charging the competition's prices. You should be charging higher. In fact, if you saw an ad for a nice fancy restaurant and they were putting out prices that looked like fast food prices, you would question that. You would wonder why they were doing that. How are they doing that? How are they able to offer what's supposed to be the best hamburger you can get at a restaurant and yet be able to charge the same price as what's a fair hamburger from a fast food place? You would question that. You would wonder if the ingredients were as good as they say they are, if the taste is going to be as good as they say it is, if the quality is going to be anywhere near what they say it is. So actually, when you charge lower prices for what's supposed to be a better product, it throws up red flags. It doesn't make people feel like they're getting a good deal. It makes them concerned. It makes them question whether they're really getting that quality and value that you're telling them they should expect, because no one expects you to provide that at those kinds of prices. So if anything, right, to be getting the kinds of clients and customers you want with that value proposition of claiming to do it better than the competition, you need to have prices to match. You need to have higher prices than the competition. So number one, right, if your value proposition is to do it better than the competition, raise your prices. Again, not to where you're price gouging, not to where your prices are so exorbitant that nobody could afford to pay them, but so that you're attracting the right kind of attention to that value proposition. Better quality should correlate with higher prices. People expect that. It's natural. Restaurants do this. Theme parks do this, right? Disney is incredibly expensive. Disney World is incredibly expensive, right? It's over $100 a day to go to Disney World, to just walk around and stand in line for rides and pay for way overpriced concession food. But because it's the best theme park out there, and so people are willing to pay that, as opposed to going to the county fair and paying a few bucks, but then the rides aren't nearly as good. Even the way overpriced concession food isn't nearly as good. So people are willing to pay more to get that better experience. Now, so let's say that you're going to have that value proposition of doing it better. So you recognize that that means you need to charge higher prices. Great. But along with that, there's now an extra layer of due diligence, of work that needs to happen on your end to make sure that you're backing up that higher price and that claim of better quality with very clear and concise explanations of exactly what the client or customer is going to get. So McDonald's just puts it out there. They show you a picture of what your hamburger is supposed to look like. You actually unwrap it. It doesn't look anything like that. You pull the buns apart and you try to find all of the condiments that are supposed to be on there, and you can barely tell if anything's actually there. But it's McDonald's, it's cheap, you don't really care. You go to a very nice restaurant and you've got a menu sitting in front of you with a paragraph explaining what kind of meat, the fancy kind of meat that went into the hamburger patty, and explaining all of the different select spices and ingredients that went into the special homemade sauce that's on this hamburger, and explaining the local farm where they got the lettuce and the tomato and the cucumber that they turned into homemade pickle chips that's going to go on this hamburger. And you're sitting there and you're reading this paragraph, and this whole time you're just getting more and more excited about this hamburger, because it's not just telling you what the ingredients are. This isn't a nutrition label like you get on the side of a cereal box at the grocery store. This is an explanation. This is an illustration of the experience that you're about to enjoy as soon as you get this hamburger. It's mouth-watering. It makes you want to order it. It makes you want it on the table right now, because it's explaining to you, it's showing you what the experience of ordering this hamburger is. They say we eat with our eyes first, right? And you haven't even seen a picture of this hamburger. You've just seen some words printed on a page, and already you can start to taste it, right? You have to do the same thing for your prospects, for your customers and clients. Don't just show them a picture that says, look, here's what I'm doing. I don't put it out to my clients of, look, I do your tax return. I do your bookkeeping. If you're a marketing consultant, don't just put it out there of, we're going to run ads for your business. We're going to develop a social media campaign. Nobody gets excited about that. You have to make it exciting, and you have to do it in a way that makes the client and the customer not only feel excited about what's coming, but feel very confident that it's very clear, it's very explicit what the result is going to be. Because nobody cares about ordering the hamburger. People want to experience that taste, and they want to experience what it feels like to eat that hamburger. That's what people are interested in. Nobody cares what you're going to do for the client, for the customer. The only thing they care about is the result. They care about that social media campaign that you're developing for them, bringing in more high quality, high value, high paying customers. Nobody cares about me getting their tax return filed and their bookkeeping done. People want help running a better business, and they want to save on taxes. And that's ultimately what they're paying me for. And that's the better experience, the value that I'm providing to them. And so I have to make that very clear in the documentation that I provide to prospects when they're signing up for me to work for them. I call it an engagement letter. That's what accountants call what ends up being the formal agreement, the written agreement between me and the client. And there's a list of all the services that I'm going to do, which for those services, I detail what I'm doing, how often I'm doing it, and how that's going to help the client. Right? There's also all the legalese, the disclosures, the details of the agreement, how much everything costs, all that. All that's included as well. But the point is, you have to be explicit with your clients and customers about what the result that they care about is going to be, and how what you're doing is actually going to get them there. And that is what's critical. with that value proposition of doing it better than the competition. So when you go to McDonald's and you look at the menu and it says hamburger, and then there's a price, and you say, okay, I'll take the hamburger and I'll pay this much, right? There's not much more to it than that. You don't really have grand expectations of what's going to happen. But when you put it out there that your value proposition is to do it better, and therefore you're going to need to charge more than the competition, your clients and customers are going to rightfully expect to know exactly what it is you're going to do for them and exactly how that's going to turn out into a result that they want to see. And you need to be very clear with them about what that actually looks like. So, this entire process of determining your value proposition, then pricing your services appropriately based on that value proposition, and then making it very clear to your prospects, to your clients and customers, what's actually going to happen, how you're going to deliver those services, and how delivering those services is going to improve your client's situation. This is all one seamless process, or it should be within your business. It should be one seamless process. You should know as soon as you've identified a prospect, a prospective customer or client, you should know exactly what that process is going to look like. As soon as you have that consultation with the prospect and you do the discovery and you find out this is what this person or this business needs from me, then that process of saying, therefore, I'm going to provide a better, higher quality product or service that they've never gotten before. And then I am going to be pricing that appropriately so that the price reflects the quality that they're going to expect and that I'm going to deliver. And I'm getting justifiably rewarded and compensated for that better quality and value that I'm going to deliver. And then I'm going to explicitly describe in detail and illustrate to that client or customer what it is that I'm going to do and how it's going to help them, so that everyone is on the same page. I'm on the same page as they are about what's actually going to happen, when it's going to happen, and the result that everybody needs to expect. And that's all one seamless process. It's how you need to do business, especially with that value proposition of providing a better product. And like I said last week, you can compete, you can try to compete by doing it cheaper, but I don't think that's why you started your business. I think you started your business because you thought, or you think, hopefully you still think, that you can do it better than the competition. So let's make that real. All of this is something that JWell CFO can help with. This is part of what we call our CRO services, or our Chief Revenue Officer services. We help you define that value proposition. Then we help you effectively and appropriately price those services based on that value proposition. You can say you want to do it cheaper than the competition. We'll help you with that too. But if you want to define your value proposition in terms of doing it better than the competition, then we can definitely help you with how to price that, because it's not an easy decision. It's really not. And in fact, when you price a product or a service today, you're probably going to change that price again. Think about the price of gas, right? Fuel for your automobile. That goes up and down all the time because the market is constantly trying to figure out how much is a barrel of oil and therefore a gallon of gas worth today. And today it might be worth a nickel more than it was yesterday, might be worth a nickel less than it was yesterday. Today your price might be $1,000. Tomorrow it might be $800. The day after that it might be $1,500. And it might even depend on the customer or the client. To one customer, that price of $1,000 is way too high, but to another client, it might be way too low, even if you're planning on doing the same service for that client. And so pricing is a critical decision that I worry a lot of small business owners don't really put enough thought into. And so this is something that our CRO service our Chief Revenue Officer service will help you with, is think about how to effectively price your services. And then once you've determined those prices, how do you actually illustrate to the prospect what those services will look like, what the results of those services will look like? And so this is where we get into, in accounting, we call it an engagement letter. In your field, you might call it a contract or a sales agreement, terms of service, whatever you want to call it, whatever your industry calls it. We can also help you craft that in such a way that it, one, explicitly defines the terms of the relationship between your business and the client or the customer, but then also craft that language in a way that gets those prospects excited, that makes those prospects read through the first couple paragraphs and say, yes, we found the right people. We want to hire you. Because you can do that. You can do that with a contract. A contract doesn't have to be boring. Yes, there's going to need to be a lot of boring stuff included in it, a lot of disclosures, a lot of legalese. But there can also be some fun stuff in there. There can be some exciting stuff in there. And if you're overlooking that opportunity to get the prospect excited, right, then you're missing out on a great chance to make it not only very clear what you're going to do, but get them pumped up about it. Get yourself pumped up about it. When I start to put together a proposal and think about the rough draft of that engagement letter for a client, I start getting excited because I'm not just saying, I'm going to do your bookkeeping, I'm going to do your tax return. I start saying, this is going to help you build a better business. This is going to help put more money in your pocket. This is going to make it to where you can invest in your business and expand so that you can deliver even more value to even more customers and clients, or that you can hire more people and expand and put those people on the payroll and help those people provide for themselves and their families. And so I start getting excited about that. And I'm not feeling like this is some annoying legal requirement. I'm feeling like this is an exciting part of establishing that relationship with that customer, with that client, so that we can get the job done for them. So if any of that is confusing to you, if any of that doesn't make sense, if any of that makes you think about your own business and say, yeah, I'm not really doing that, maybe I should, then get in touch with J Wells CFO. Get in touch with me, Jeremy Wells at J Wells CFO. Yes, we are proud of the financial services that we're offering in terms of the accounting, the tax, the business consulting. But this product, the CRO service that we are putting out there, the Chief Revenue Officer, essentially outsourcing that sales department where we're going to help you with the value proposition, defining that. What is it? What are you really bringing to the market that differentiates you? And then how are you going to price that in such a way that makes sense to both the client or the customer and to you? And then how are you going to actually illustrate those services and put together that formal agreement so that everyone's on the same page and knows what to expect? That is really the first step, because in order to get to the point to where we can really make big business decisions about what are you going to do to save money on taxes? What are you going to do to put together financial statements that are going to impress investors and creditors? What are you going to do to make financial decisions that's ultimately going to put more money in your product? In order to do all of that, you have to make money. And the way you're going to make money is by attracting high quality, high value clients and customers, which means you need to be very explicit about what you're doing, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it, and how much you're going to charge for it. And we can help you with that. Jeremy Wells, J Wells CFO. You can find me across all the social media at J Wells CFO. If you like this episode, if you have any questions, please be sure to leave a comment below or get in touch with us at hello@jwellscfo.com. Thank you very much. Have a great day.